Well, this week on the Coach's Cut with me and my great friend Brian Billick, Super Bowl winning head coach of the Baltimore Ravens, Mike Smith, former NFL Coach of the Year for the Atlanta Falcons, are joining me to talk about coaching firings, potential coaching firings, and all other things that have to do with coaches around the National Football League. First, let me say this. Mike and Brian are married to sisters, Julie and Kim. They are coaching in the first ever American Bowl, which is January 22nd, Thursday night on the NFL Network. This will be in Florida. This will take place at 8 p.m. It's more of a television game than a fill the stadium game. And I know they're going to have a little side wager. Welcome to the show, man. How's it going today?
We're doing good. And as you know, if you're married to sisters, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the side bet is. I mean, the loser's got to buy dinner.
Right.
I've stopped drinking, so it's a very cheap buy for him, no matter where we go. But as you know, I always tell the players, I said, if you think this game isn't important, you think I'm going to go home to my wife and tell her that I lost to her sister's husband, that ain't going to happen. So there's a lot riding on it.
Well, I know there is. What do you say, Mike? What do you say to that?
Well, I'm 1 and 2, so I've had to buy a meal, and he was drinking a couple years ago.
Well, let me say this. Unfortunately, I was
not as cheap as you said, Brian.
Not as cheap. Hey, let me say this. Unfortunately, we did this at the Hula Bowl for a couple of years in Orlando, and unfortunately, Brian, I was on the staff that you have your only loss, so I apologize. So you should have threw me part of that bill, but I'm glad you didn't. So let's fire away with this. I think it'll be interesting to talk about some of these NFL openings that we have right now presently, and some of the ones we could have here in a couple weeks on Black Monday, they call it. But we have the Bryans to start out. We had the Titans head coach Brian Callahan's been fired. Giants head coach Brian Daboll's been fired. Tell me, what do you think, or who do you think, are the top offensive coordinators out there that could fill these voids, Brian? Brian.
Yeah, well, it's the normal, usual, round up the usual suspects. That's always what we do in the league. Let's go through, and all you really need to do is kind of go and look at what offenses are doing well, and that guy's going to be of interest. Part of the problem is, particularly in today's game, a lot of the head coaches are either calling the offensive or defensive side. So it's hard for their coordinator to get the credit or the attention from the league to do that. To me, a couple of the top ones, when you look at it, Todd Monken in with Baltimore, he's got a thorough resume. This guy's been everywhere. He's been in and out of the NFL. So what he's done, he's got the abilities. Obviously, he did a great job with crafting an offense around Lamar Jackson and kind of pulling out of Lamar Jackson more quarterbacking abilities. So I think that's going to make him a very attractive candidate. But then the qualifier is, okay, great, but now you got to go get another Lamar Jackson. That's always kind of the qualifier that you have to have, because typically all these jobs that are coming open are usually related to what is their quarterback situation. It's why the job's available. Two other guys is the two Kubiak brothers. I think are going to be very high and are, again, very capable young guys, the Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan type guys that everybody covets.
Right.
But Clay and Clint Kubiak, Clay's with the 49ers. Now he's sitting in behind, obviously, Shanahan, but a lot of people have recognized that he's had a lot to do with it and done a great job, particularly with all the injuries. And Clint Kubiak in Seattle, the resurrection of Darnold, and what they're doing up there in terms of now currently or going into it, look like they might be the number one seed. I think these are guys, and again, they fit that. Let's get the young genius in here, and they're the ones that are top the list.
Yeah, I agree with those. I'm glad to hear you say about Clint. His daddy, of course, Gary did a great job in the NFL for a long time. Couple retread names in there that people are throwing out. If you want a quarterback guy, Cliff Kingsbury, who's with the Commanders. Of course, Matt Nagy, he's been the head coach with the Bears before. And then another name I heard, Brian, recently is Joe Brady up there with the Bills. And so he's another name I heard. So
yeah, these are guys obviously that have got hot
yeah,
and had some opportunities and fell off.
right.
So although this league right now, I think they're a little cautious about going back and getting the guys um, that have been there before. It's kind of
Right.
like, well, maybe Josh McDaniels. Maybe you're at the right level at the right place as opposed to becoming a head coach.
Yeah, the retreads, the guys for the second time. Although, Belichick got a second chance, and look what he did with it, right? So, Mike, let's go to the defensive side of that. Same question. You got two openings right now. We'll talk about possible other openings here in a second, but two openings right now. What defensive coordinators out there, I'm sure you got a good list, do you think could be in the hunt for one of these two jobs?
Well, I think there's a long list of defensive coaches. I think that the pendulum has swung the last 2 or 3 years. There's been more defensive minded head coaches that have been hired. So I really think that there's a good chance that there's going to be a defensive guy that's going to be chosen for one of these two jobs. And there's a handful of them. And you can start with Jesse Mentor with the Chargers, the
Right.
defensive coordinator. He's done a great job there. The guy that I think is probably the most ready, and he's a young guy, hasn't been a coordinator for a long time, is Chris Shula
Yeah.
for the for the Rams. I think he does a fantastic job, and he's running that defense. It's not like some of the offensive guys where you wonder, are they really ready to go because they're not really running the offense when the head coach is doing it. Uh, they've got some guys that have done it before on the defensive side that didn't succeed that I think have a chance to get a second bite at the apple, and that's Vance Joseph. He's done a
Yes.
fantastic job with the Broncos, and
Yes.
I think he's probably learned a lot from doing it the first time, and he's going to get in. I think he's definitely going to get another chance, along with Brian Flores.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's done a hell of a job in Minnesota, and he's got I think he's got an opportunity to get it done. And then uh, one guy that's gotten kind of hot here this year is Jeff Hafley
Yeah.
from the Green Bay Packers and I think he's going to be a guy that's going to get some mention. And really, there's one guy that's really zooming up, and that's the defensive coordinator there for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's done a heck of a job.
Yeah, they've created a hell of a lot of turnovers, Mike. And I'm glad to hear you say Jeff Hafley because I had him on my list. The Packers are number 5 in yards allowed on defense. He's done an excellent job. Let's see how he does down the stretch here with Micah Parsons going to be missing for a while. So that'll be interesting. Those are good guys, and those are two great lists because I had I had all the same guys. So I'm happy to hear that you guys didn't miss any of my guys. On Black Monday, and this is all inevitable, Brian, I'm going to have you talk about a couple of guys. Should they stay or should they go? And then, Mike, I'll just way we're not talking about the same guys. And, Mike, I'll give you a couple of guys. Brian, specifically, I want to hear you touch on Kevin Stefanski, Zach Taylor in Cincinnati, Mike McDaniel in Miami, and, of course, I hate to put it in, I'm here in Las Vegas, so people want to hear what you have to say about Pete Carroll. Are these guys out? Or, as I said, should they stay or should they go?
Yeah. It's I'm a coach. Should they go? No, I'm not. I'm not for any coach getting fired.
Right.
It's you just that's a panacea for okay, everything will be solved. We put the next guy in, which is what you said when you hired this guy to begin with.
Right.
So, will they go? That's a different question. Stefanski is an interesting one. He's in a place in Cleveland that's just been a nightmare to try to succeed and put the total package together.
Right.
So you could make a case that what culpability he has with that. In most of these cases, and all the teams that are on the edge, it typically comes back to the quarterback, right? that in this league you either have a guy or you don't have a guy and you need to be looking for one. If you don't have a guy, then you're likely going to be on that hot seat. And I think Stefanski's been through enough of it right now. The question will be, will the Haslams decide, do they need the total rehaul? Do we just need to finally hit on the right quarterback, which we've missed time and time again?
Right.
Because Kevin's an excellent coach. Or no, do we need to recraft the whole thing? Do we need to start from the bottom up with the players and just clean the slate? That remains to be seen. They may be at that point. Zach Taylor in Cincinnati, it's always, how much time you get on the contract. If
Right.
there's any time left, they're not going to do it because the Browns just aren't going to pay anybody.
The
They're not going to pay a good coach.
Yeah.
They're the Bengals, excuse me.
Yeah.
And the difficulty for Zach Taylor is, again, he's got a great quarterback in Joe Burrow. I think one of the best and has a huge upside.
Absolutely.
But because of injury and whatever, it just hasn't come together. So they have to make the decision of, well, will a new outfit, will a new situation help that? I don't think they'll make that jump. I think Zach Taylor's, and again, it's what's the situation in terms of the pay. Mike McDaniel's, he's they've picked it back up, but they also then have, well, are they going to go forward with the quarterback?
Right.
Your best hire when you hire a coach, if you need the quarterback, and that typically goes together, is that you do them both at the same time. That you don't have to stair step it.
Right.
Because then that just puts you on a path. If you have an existing guy, you're going to get a new quarterback next year. He's going to be a rookie, not going to play so good. And now you want to let the coach go. Well, now you've put that cat. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So Miami has to decide. Well, if we think we need to go get a quarterback, and we're in the quarterback market, then they likely might make the change there. And Pete Carroll, Pete's a hell of a coach. It's just a matter of coming in and I guess I would say, when in regards to Las Vegas, is why wouldn't you stay with Pete? Because you probably aren't going to hire anybody better given your track record, the way you've gone over it the last couple of years.
Right.
What makes you think you're going to pick anybody better?
Yeah, I agree with that. I just think that there needs to be some changes on the staff. He's already made a couple, and they just got to me, they're at a sink. And I felt like they were at a sink the whole season. And I believe that Pete's such a positive guy that he was trying to allude in public, and to me, he was on the show twice, that he had more talent than he really had. But then when you start looking at the film and the roster, he didn't have a whole heck of a lot of talent. And you got to remember, Pete is that ultimate positive guy. And so maybe that hurt him. Maybe he shouldn't have came out and said, "Oh, our line is great," and he was on the show talking about how great the line was. The line was not great. The line was awful. I'm an O-line guy, as you guys know, and I went out to a couple practices, and I was a little bit aghast, to say the least. So, Mike, we're going to go on the other side of it and have you talk about a couple of guys. Raheem Morris in Atlanta, your old stomping ground. Mike Tomlin, who took some heat a couple of weeks ago. Now they've turned that thing around, but they have a tough schedule moving forward too. Jonathan Gannon in Arizona. Like I said to Brian, should they stay or should they go? And I agree with Brian. I hate to see anyone get fired, but does there need to be a change in any of those locations?
Well, I feel the same way about Brian. And before I jump into that, I just wanted to bring something up and it concerns Pete there in Las Vegas. This business has changed. In the last 10 years, Mike, there's been 11 coaches that were one and done.
My God.
Meaning that they only got an opportunity to be the head coach for one season. And it just appalls me. And really, in the last 5 years, it's been 7 coaches.
Wow.
And I don't want to go through, the list, but
right.
the ownership, the people that are making decisions. I mean, when you're making a call on who's the head coach and then you fire him in 1 year, that's not right. You have no chance. And I'm like Brian when you start talking about the hot seat. Yes, we make a big deal of it. It's like it's a holiday at the end of the season.
Right.
Black Monday or whatever the hell they call it.
Right.
And it's part of the business. But uh, we need to really look at it. And we're talking about guys that are on the hot seat after 2 years.
Right.
And I'm sure when they had to sit down with the ownership, they were talking about, hey, this is a 3-year plan or a 4-year plan, and we don't get there. So the first one we're talking about is Mike Tomlin. Mike he's entrenched. He's done everything that you can do with the Pittsburgh Steelers. There's no doubt about it in my mind.
Okay.
And does he deserve to be on the hot seat? I say absolutely not. How can you be on the hot seat when you are right in the thick of things? You've been in the playoffs now. He hasn't had the success that he had early on in his career, but I don't see them making a change there in Pittsburgh. Mike Tomlin, as long as they continue to play well and they're right in the thick of things, I think he's going to be fine. Jonathan Gannon, uh, there he's got some issues. They haven't been able to win. He's not. He's on his third year. There's a possibility that could happen. But you look at the organization there in Arizona, they're likely to make moves very, very quickly. And then, I don't think you give a guy only 2 years, and that's the situation with Raheem Morris.
I agree.
Raheem,
Yeah.
yeah, Raheem has done a good job. They're going to finish strong. It's not like they have a stretch. They've had a stretch where they maybe lost 4 or 5 games, but if they play like they're capable of playing, they're going to be one game under 500.
Yeah.
And that's just 2 years. They have really redone, and we'll talk about some of their defensive players. They have really redone their defense. They've got some really good players. They got to figure out the quarterback, and I think that's the issue that we always have is what are we going to do at the quarterback position?
And
Yeah.
it's worth bringing up, I think, and the number that Mike just gave you. I think the reason for that is with the number of one-on-one duns, is this has become a general manager's league. It's not a head coach's league. It's a general manager's league. That's who has the final say on personnel, the cap, and because of that, I think these organizations and these general managers are hiring guys and looking at them as though they're just basically hiring a glorified coordinator.
Hmm.
That which you'll pull the trigger on in New York minute when things aren't going good. And so a lot of the coaches that are being hired by the organizations and general managers are basically, okay, I'm going to find me the guru defensive or offensive genius, and you just lock yourself in your room, and we'll shove your meals under the door, and you come up with these genius game plans. We'll take care of everything else, and if it doesn't quite go according to Hoyle, then it's like the coordinators, which we can fire that in a New York second and make that change. So I think that's the reason we're seeing that trend that Mike's talking about. It's become a general manager's league.
That's an interesting point. I haven't never heard it said that way. Which AFC coach do you feel like has done the best job this season? I'm going to give you some names, and all you got to do is, maybe talk on a couple of them, but you got to pick one. So I'll say Mike Vrabel up in New England has done a fantastic job. The guy that's, I think, done a tremendous job too is Liam Cohen down there in Jacksonville. Of course, Sean Payton in Denver has done a nice job, especially with that quarterback. D'Amico Ryans, after starting 0-3, they're right there in it. I mean, they've done a great job. And Jim Harbaugh, losing both tackles this season, having a multiple injuries, running back. He's done an outstanding job. I think he's a great coach. Who do you think deserves accolades or Coach of the Year conversation?
Well, they all do, and you've got some guys in there that have been there before with Vrabel and Peyton and Harbaugh that have done great jobs and shown, and under different circumstances. I think Vrabel's been brilliant in terms of reestablishing New England after a huge dip on their part and doing it with obviously the young quarterback. But I'm going to go with you. I think Liam Cohen, only because Jacksonville forever has been at that fringe and have not been good since Tom Coughlin and just can't seem. And Cohen has come in, and this team believes in itself. It was start out really well, then a little bit of a dip. They've come back. They are obviously viable right now. along with Houston, which is so D'Amico Ryans is doing a great job. But I think Cohen in his first year to kind of resurrect that team, reestablish the culture, get Trevor Lawrence kind of into a rhythm and looking like the potential that
Yeah.
we all thought. Yeah, if I had to pick one, I'd probably go with Cohen.
I think that's a great pick. I think he's done a great job, and their defense is creating a lot of turnovers. And I agree with you on the quarterback. Trevor Lawrence hasn't looked this good since his early days, and my hat's off to them. Tough place to win, as you know. Mike, I'm going to give you the NFC guys. Ben Johnson, Dave Canales in Carolina, which is a surprise. Sean McVay, who we saw lose last night to the Seahawks. Mike McDonald, and or Kyle Shanahan, because he's had a plethora of injuries this year. Which guy do you think deserves accolades for NFC discussion, NFC Coach of the Year?
Well, all of these guys are having a great season, like Brian said, and it's tough to pick just one. And I'm gonna go with a first year head coach on the NFC side as well, and that's Ben Johnson. I mean,
Wow.
he's former from the Bears. He's a former offensive coordinator for Detroit. Did a great job there. He's been a fast riser, and he's a guy that has got the Bears playing well. And you talk about the guys out there in the West. That's the toughest division that Shanahan and McDaniel are playing in. That division is loaded from top to bottom, except for Arizona.
Right.
But Ben Johnson, first year guy, changing the culture, doing the things that you need to do. They've played good football throughout the year. I think it's a no-brainer that he's going to be the NFC Coach of the Year.